The tools of your trade. Working with broken people is like going to war and crafting a masterpiece at the same time. For this task, you'll need the right weapons and tools. There are going to be battles you fight against opposing forces and personal mindsets, so you need to be prepared. My view is that if you're intent on doing this work, you're first of all a warrior, and then you become a craftsman as you actually do the work of leading broken people. There's a wonderful book in the Old Testament called Nehemiah, where God's people are rebuilding the broken walls of Jerusalem. There comes a point in chapter 4 when this necessity of fighting and building at the same time becomes crystal clear. And whether it's rebuilding walls or people, the reality will be the same. With this in mind, it's necessary to become familiar with your tools and how to use them. The reason it's important is that any time you're asking people to change, there will be situations that will oppose you and genuine concerns that those people will have. This is the battleground. And when you understand what tools to use, you'll have more chance of coming through it with another transformed person with you. When you take the time to meet the personal concerns that people naturally have and you have the necessary tools to work with, you'll win a lot of trust and you'll be able to generate and maintain the momentum necessary for the change to be a successful one. I've found that there are 6 predictable questions that people have when they're asked to change. Sometimes the sequence changes, but the conscious and unconscious things that run through people's minds when changes are on the menu remain the same. The first question is usually, what is the change that's needed? This has to do with information, and your tool here is truth. Truth is powerful. Truth sets people free. So be honest about their condition. Try to get them to see what their life really looks like, not just what they've fallen into believing it looks like. Most broken people get caught in the trap of trying to justify why they are the way they are, and all will usually try to blame everything or anyone else for their condition. The first obstacle to face and overcome is denial, because that mindset is a massive barrier to break through. Denial is not just an Egyptian river. It's a real problem. And the clearer information you can provide to someone about the need to change, the better. Just don't forget to speak the truth in a loving way. Someone once said that giving truth without love is like kissing someone with bad breath. What should be something good can be spoiled by not paying attention to something important. A question that always runs through a person's mind after this is, how will the change impact me personally? What will I gain? This next question is of a personal nature. Your tool here is your personal story or testimony, or even the stories of other people that might be relevant. Give examples of success. I remember my dad telling me that once seen is 10 times told, and it's true. If you can show what you mean or point someone in the direction of someone else who's positively negotiated change in some area, then you're halfway there. And if you can align them with someone who's walking out the same sort of change you've advocated, then better still. I always say that footprints are better than signposts. Where the process of change is concerned, I believe that this is true. In other words, there's no substitute for real experience where change is concerned. You can learn and teach some great stuff academically, but nothing beats practical application and experience for authenticity, and it's the realism that captures people's imagination. If you can get them to visualize the possibility, then you have a strong chance of them taking steps to make what they have imagined a reality. But please note that delegation of responsibility is very different than abdication of responsibility at this point in the journey. The temptation can creep in to abandon that person, let someone else take up the slack. But the only time you fully release your engagement is when the person you're working with is stable enough to walk on their own 2 feet. At the very least, keep following up on them. One church near us had a situation with a man struggling with addiction who was married to a woman in their congregation. They didn't know what to do, and after trying their best for some time to help him, they eventually contacted us at Victory Outreach. This was due to the fact that I knew the pastor quite well, so relationships are really, really important. The man in question was from Salford in Greater Manchester, where both our respective churches are situated. And after considering what would be best, I found him a place in one of our Victory homes in Liverpool, where his life began to completely turn around. While this process was ongoing, though, my pastor friend, who had originally brought him to us, still kept in contact with him. The church prayed for him, sent encouragement to him constantly. This was a massive help during his changing process, as he felt like he hadn't just been completely dumped out of his old life. His life would never be the same, but at least there was some continuity to the change. And a major key to his change was the fact that he was surrounded by changed and changing people. And they came from the sort of background he'd come from. Every story was similar, and the footprints were right there. Success is contagious. So if you can get someone to see it or be around it, you can be sure they will catch something of it for themselves. When a person begins to see the need for and the possibility of a positive change, they'll want to know how to go about it. The third question: what do I do first? What do I do next? This addresses the need for implementation. Your tool here is structure. It's very important that people know step by step what is going to be expected of them during their process. This provides security and hope. People that are kept in the dark or stay ignorant of these steps can either freeze and get stuck or become afraid and run. Putting a structure in place, and it could be a loose one to begin with, enables positive progress to continue. Could be as simple as a daily timetable of achievable goals to begin with, adding some progress goals for a month at a time, and you'll be surprised how helpful these things are to someone who's been used to living in chaos. Wherever things are broken down in someone's life and they're confused and off balance, knowing clearly the next thing to do is like being able to grab hold of a rope in a pitch-black cave, which becomes their lifeline to freedom. Don't complicate things, and remember that simple structures are the best. The next thing that is commonly asked has to do with the reality of the change. The fourth question is, where am I changing? Is all the effort worth it? Is the change making a real difference? The question here is regarding the impact the changing process is having. And your tool in this instance is evaluation. Regularly inspect what you expect. Have consistent checkups with them and point out to them how far or not they might have come. Encouragement can work wonders, even if they fully haven't met your expectations. If they have, and if they've moved forward even an inch instead of the mile you were hoping for, then that's okay. Celebrate the win with them. Then challenge them with the next expectation. I call this the praise sandwich. Start with your first slice of bread. This is the encouragement or the praise for what they've achieved. Then add the meat of what they still need to do. Then sandwich it up with another piece of encouragement to build their sense of possibility going forward. When you do this consistently, you'll find that momentum is maintained, because the fact is, you're only aware of the growth you measure. This becomes a powerful barometer to gauge the next step, because whenever someone sees growth, it releases the desire to press on to the next challenge. By now, you've probably realized that helping people is best done with others, because it really is true that teamwork makes the dream work. So the question then becomes, number 5, who else should be involved? This involves the need for cooperation. And your tool here is your network of contacts. I'm convinced that relationships are the basis of every healthy thing. And rather than networking for the sake of it, you should do your best to build relational connections with people for mutual benefit. When you have this relational base comprising of people who know you and who can usually do what you can't, You have a pool of healthy resources to help you help others. Different people have different needs, and you might not have all the experience or knowledge needed, but someone has. So the key is to bring in key people to help at key times. We already saw this can work with people's personal stories of change, but now you can add real expertise to the mix. From professional counselors to career advisors, lawyers and medical professionals, the list goes on. If you're not doing that, I'd encourage you to start. I know it can seem difficult if you're not used to doing it, but it's possible. I'm a bit of an introvert by nature and find social settings awkward to negotiate. But when I have the opportunity to talk about my passion for helping people, it opens up conversations with other people that are like-minded and evens out the playing field. I've met people from nearly every walk of life and profession, and some of those relationships have been massively helpful in enabling people to move forward in life from a place of brokenness to the possibility of fulfillment. Then lastly, but definitely not to be overlooked, there's the question of maintenance. Number 6, how can we keep the change going? This is about follow-up, and your tool here is accountability structures. Accountability is a much overlooked tool. I think it's because it can be misused and become controlling when misunderstood, both by those utilizing it and those who are being asked to be accountable. But when it works correctly, it provides a canopy or covering which can protect the one who commits to it. In a nutshell, accountability has to do with being responsible and willing to answer for your actions, and has to do with how someone conducts themselves. I don't just preach this, I live it and actually make myself accountable to several people in several ways. Firstly, I'm mutually accountable to my wife, Vicky. We share details of our lives and we keep no secrets, except when I'm getting her a gift, of course, including our whereabouts, our finances, the people we meet, our online habits. None of these are secrets. On top of that, I have an overall covering as part of the Victory Outreach International Ministry. As a licensed or ordained minister, I hold my credentials with them, which brings with it a certain expectation and certain benefits. I'm also in an accountability group in Manchester where I live and work. I have certain friends who are also ministers who I give permission to hold me to account with my life and work. This is also mutual, and the benefits of that, I know I'm protected from myself and from giving in to one of the many temptations the world we live in presents. And if I start becoming wacky, I have people I trust who will pull me up. Having these accountability structures can go a long way to enabling the positive changes that people make to keep progressing forward in the right direction. A couple of other ways to build in these structures, on top of the purely relational ones, are conferences, where mutual accountability can be had on a larger scale, and involvement in work or ministry. If you can get to the point where a fixed person you've worked with gets involved in some way reaching other broken people, you've cracked it. It's amazing how serving others who face similar challenges to the ones that you've overcome yourself can really push you onwards towards a sustained future filled with the type of freedom you've always longed for. Learning to serve shifts people's focus from themselves to others, and it allows them to truly fly free. This is Jesus' pattern, and it works. So know your tools, keep them sharp, ready for use. The writer of Ecclesiastes puts it like this. Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 10. If the iron is blunt and one does not sharpen the edge, he must use more strength, but wisdom helps one to succeed. Having the knowledge of what to do and then doing it in the right way at the right time is wisdom. And if you want to succeed in helping people to change, you need it in huge amounts. Use your tools wisely and watch as something amazing emerges from the darkness of the old existence of the someone that you reached out to. You'll have the satisfaction then of having played your part in seeing that treasure come out of darkness.